It's Monday, April 3rd, and this is Geeknights. Tonight is the long-awaited episode about monitor technology. Let's do this!
So over the weekend, we hit Gaming for Hope up at Marist College.
Which was much better than expected.
Yes, it was definitely at least on par with the types of events we were used to back at RIT.
Yeah, and it was 90% well-organized, much more than, usual for these sorts of things.
Yeah, we got free pizza not once, but twice.
2 times free pizza, and 2 times they brought exactly enough for everyone there.
The only thing that was really wrong with it was that the Mario Tennis Doubles tournament, one of the reasons we went, was canceled.
That's okay, because we got to just leave because it wasn't going to happen.
Yep, but we'll have our coverage of that tomorrow on Gaming Day.
Because it was mostly gaming of all sorts.
Yep. Now also, yesterday, Sunday, I did something kind of crazy and dangerous, and I thought I'd tell all of you, so you can possibly emulate and not sue when you hurt yourselves. Now, I've mentioned it before, but we live in Beacon, and outside my bedroom window is Mount Beacon, which is a 1,500-foot small mountain that was used in the Revolutionary War by George Washington and various other things. And at the top of it, at the very peak, it's the highest point in the area, is this 60 or 70-foot tall, rickety-ass, 20 years of unmaintained, horrible, weather-worn, iron-rusting mass of a tower. And I got in my head, I climbed the mountain, and I got up there, and then I climbed that tower, and it was rickety and scary, and I was kind of worried that the wind was going to knock the damn thing over, but it didn't.
It hadn't been knocked over yet.
See, that was my logic. It didn't fall in the last 10 years of disrepair. It wasn't going to fall yesterday.
Well, maybe just no one had been on it for 10 years, in which case,
So I climbed this thing, and I eventually got to the top, and the cool thing is, from the top of that tower, in Beacon here, I could see very clearly the skyline of New York City, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's New York City's real tall. Mountains real tall.
Yep.
Not much in between.
Yeah, just about 70 miles of other smaller mountains.
No fog, no low clouds. You're all good.
Yeah. Now, the startling thing was, one, the wind up there. If you've never been on top of a, tallish thing, the wind just doesn't stop. It's just this constant stream of howling wind.
That's pretty typical. Whenever you see videos of, Everest or anything, you just see sideways snow all the time.
And 2, once I got up there and I was looking at the skyline and, kind of thinking about what I would do if the thing suddenly tipped over on me, and the answer to that question was die.
Maybe just severely injured.
Yeah, well, it's at the peak of a mountain, like literally the peak, like a big rock on top of the mountain. So I would have fallen much further than the height of the tower had the thing fallen over.
That's true, but if you didn't die, the helicopter would have come to get you.
Yeah, I had my cell phone with me.
Yep.
And I've got signal up there.
Well, it's hard not to get signal on top of a fucking mountain, because it's line of sight. So you got line of sight to every cell tower within...
In fact, my cell tower was below me. I could see it.
Oh, there you go.
But the other thing I noticed up there that also frightened me a bit was that the top of the tower was riddled in bullet holes.
Really?
Well, you can see this tower from, all around the valley and everywhere, all these hills and trails and houses. And I think hunters just take pot shots at it when they're drunk and bored.
It could be. Are there a lot of hunters out there?
Yes.
Yeah? Did you see some?
I didn't see any now. It's not really hunting season.
Oh, you better be careful that they don't shoot you.
Oh, you realize that I have a blaze orange that I wear whenever I run in the woods in hunting season. But anyway, that's my story. I didn't die. I'm still here.
Damn it.
But anyway, in the news, for a long time, a lot of people have been pushing both for and against the .xxx top-level domain for DNS. So instead of, nakedlesbians.com, you'd have nakedlesbians.xxx.
I'm for and against this.
Yeah, now the thing is, the people who are for it, as in they want this to become a domain, don't want it to be a domain just so it's easy to find porn. In fact, they want just the opposite. They want the XXX domain, and then they want laws requiring anything that is quote-unquote pornographic to be there and not be anywhere else.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. I don't mind if, I wouldn't mind if all the porn was on XXX, because it makes it easier for the people who want to find it, and it makes it, so people who don't want to look at it don't have to look at it. The problem is any law requiring the porn to be on XXX gets really tricky and shady and First Amendment-ish.
Yep. It really comes down to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the only entity that has ever defined what porn is. And they've basically defined it as an ephemeral thing that depends on the standards of the community in which the item is looked at. That doesn't work on the internet when you can see it anywhere.
Yeah, what if I start a crazy Muslim community in New York and we decide that, a picture of a woman's foot is pornographic? Well, now every site with a woman's foot has to be an XXX. Yeah, this is why it's no good.
Yeah, now the scary thing is, the Christian right is very strongly both for and against this. I mean, half of them want it because they want all the porn to be there. Half of them are against it because they're afraid that if it happens, it means that porn is legitimized somehow or endorsed.
Yeah, the only way I could see this flying... See, I wouldn't mind if they made the domain. I have no problem with that because that would just, and you say nothing can be in the domain unless it's porn. That's fine. Because...
Or just make it a domain like everything else. I mean, .org generally means organization, nonprofit, but there's no law that says you have to be.
Yeah, that's fine. The only thing is that, the purpose of having the domain would be to protect people who, well, not to protect people, but to allow people who don't want to look at, naked people or XXX screwing so they don't have to.
It's really easy to not look at pornography. You simply don't look at it.
Yeah, see, what the problem is those people who don't know how to use the internet, and they have Internet Explorer, and they have a bunch of whatnots, and then all of a sudden, pop-ups come with boobs and God knows what. And...
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to sound like one of those ivory tower geeks, but that's not the domain system's problem. That's your problem running Internet Explorer. That's Internet Explorer's problem not working properly.
It is, but at the same time... if we set up the little domain thing, then it would just make everything easier because those people would install a little piece of software that would just block anything from an XXX domain and they'd be set.
Yeah, but almost every porn site would probably also have a more legitimate, well-known domain anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I mean, I'd like to see it happen just because it'd be another useful top-level domain, but I don't see it actually happening. But anyway, that's not the news. People have been pushing for this for the last, decade.
Yeah. Well, there's the idiot port what guy?
Oh, God, we talked about him a while ago.
That guy's an idiot.
But anyway, the news is that ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, these are the people who decide basically how all these sorts of things work and how they all fly. There's a lot of debate.
At least when it comes to DNS.
Yeah, and various other things. Anything involving, quote, assigned names and numbers. So they also have a say in how IP blocks work and everything. We're not going to talk about how it works on a direct level because it's complicated how the internet's run. And in fact, there's a big controversy going on as the EU...
Controversy?
Yes, the EU wants to take over DNS, or part of it, and take over a lot of internet functions that they think the U.S. has a monopoly on. And the U.S., well, gave them the finger. And there's
As they well should.
Yeah. But anyway, the news is that ICANN said the XXX domain is useless, stupid, and done, and they won't consider it this time around.
Well, maybe next time. It'll be easier to find the prawns.
Yeah, well, the article I read, and I haven't read other articles on it, implied that the reason they turned it down was because of complaints from the Christian right.
Uh-huh.
And the article implied that is more cause for Europe to take over the internet because the Americans are xenophobic and afraid of pornography and controversial things. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think ICANN thought it through that far.
I don't think ICANN thought it through that far
I don't
either.
think ICANN gives one shit either way, frankly.
ICANN cares about assigning the names and numbers properly. That's what they care about.
Oh, they also care about being horribly corrupt and all that sort of thing.
They're not as corrupt as the way it was done before.
No, they're not. I'll give them that.
That's the best I can say about ICANN is what we had before we had ICANN was corrupt.
Though actually,
what was it, like VeriSign or no? It was Network. What's his name?
You know
what's
what?
That company.
You know what? We should save this and do another Monday episode on how the internet works on that level. All the organizations that control the various bits of it.
How the DNS stuff works, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of people outside of the geek world really know that, and they'll hear things like, oh, ICANN did this, or ITAR did this, and they have no idea what it all is.
Or the IEEE.
Haha.
All right. So, Microsoft. Woo!
Woo?
No, not really. They have a piece of software called Microsoft Virtual Server 2005 R2, and it's due out early next year.
R2?
I guess it's revision 2 of Microsoft Virtual Server.
Open all the...
Yeah. Open all the trash compactors on the detention level R2. Oh my god.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. So Microsoft Virtual Server
You see that? Scott knew what I was about. I didn't even say my joke.
2005 D2.
Yeah.
In case I can't let this joke go. All right. Oh my God, the word Spaceballs is in this article.
We're done.
We're done. I'm not even joking, it's right there.
Why does it say Spaceballs?
Given these moves, we're reminded of the scene from Spaceballs, and Lord Helmet orders an underling to thrust his ship from light speed to ludicrous speed.
Okay. What's the actual news here?
The news is that Microsoft Virtual Server, which is this piece of software that basically lets you run a bunch of Windows servers on one physical computer, is going to support running Linux in that next R2D2 version.
You know, if I could use that at work right now, that would be fantastic. Because
it's not free, of course. But,
whatever.
But they will actually support running Linux on it. Like, if you decide to, install Virtual Server, install like an XP, a 2003, two 2000s, and two Linuxes, they'll hook you up if you call them for help and you paid for it.
See, now that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, partly, especially from me, a sysadmin point of view, that there are a lot of services that I want to run that are only easy or good to run on Linux. But due to idiots above me, I am forced to run Windows servers.
Mm-hmm. Now, hey, the other thing is Microsoft was actually planning to bring it out this year, but they've delayed pretty much everything, including Vista and all. Oh, yeah, this will probably be able to do something with Vista, too. So you can have like a Vista and a 2000 and a Linux.
Ah.
Also, VMware, which provides a, software that does the exact same thing as Microsoft Virtual Server.
Yeah. A lot of people use it in school when you have to, especially in IT, when you have to set up a network of like 10 computers. Instead, you'll have 2 computers running VMware and just emulate a whole bunch of PCs.
Yeah, so VMware released a free VMware player, kind of like the Acrobat Reader is free. It can only read, it can't create. And what that does is it lets you make images, which are kind of like ISO files, but different. And you can run those in VMware. So VMware used to cost a lot of money, but recently they made it so that you could run images for free, but you couldn't make the images. Well, people quickly found out how to make images, and they've been making them, but now VMware is opening up officially the image format, which means there'll probably be a bunch of open source tools to allow you to make images soon, which, VMware isn't making as much money as it used to because of stuff like Microsoft Virtual Server and this other company that I forget the name of. But I think they're going to get a lot of share with this, as in people using VMware instead, but they're not going to get a lot of money because now no one has a reason to pay them anything.
Yeah, but I got to say, once I get my new fast computer, I would very much like to run a Windows in a little box so I could play my Windows games.
Yeah, the thing is, those little VMwares don't do the games that well.
Someone could make one that could. I mean, VMware itself, if you run like Windows in a VMware, it's not significantly slower than running Windows native.
As long as you got plenty of RAM, it's cool. But when you try to run a game and it goes into like the 3D mode with the graphics, then it kind of gets a little hairy.
Yeah, but if you've got a dual-core processor and a shit ton of RAM...
Oh, a dual core, you could be all right. Depending. But yeah, it could work.
All right. Things of the day.
All right, so there's this dude, and I don't know his name, but I see a picture of him, a couple pictures of him. And he works in I can't tell because there's only pictures and no words, so I'm just going to speculate here. He works in a metal shop, or he has access to a metal shop, and he designed and created a little metal dude, like a little action figure guy. You ever seen those like wooden things, like little figure models? They're kind of blooby, and they're all ball jointed, and you can pose them in different ways. Well, this is made out of metal, and it is like the most accurate, like, I don't know, it must be a foot tall human model I've ever seen.
It's one of the highest quality toys I've ever seen in my life.
I don't even know if I'd call it a toy. It's like
an action figure. You can pose it.
Yeah, it's like beyond toy. It's like the ultimate human model. This thing has every joint, like every little finger bit is movable and looks like it's really high quality and posable and everything. I say that from now on, when they make action figures, they should just make these and then put like goop on them to make them look like whatever character you're after.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is badass.
Like, you look at it and you go, wow, goddamn, I really want one. But I think even if you mass manufacture these, they'd still cost a fortune.
All right, so Chevrolet decided to have a little contest where you could go onto their website and you could design for them. They gave you a bunch of footage and a little tool. You could make an advertisement for their new Chevy Tahoe.
Awesome.
Now, this wouldn't have been news, but as Fark reported and other internet sites soon discovered, most people who are internet savvy seem to not particularly like SUVs.
I wonder why.
I don't know. But imagine what would happen if a bunch of geeks and a bunch of SUV-hating, hippie types online found out that they could just make ads for the Chevy Tahoe, and they would be hosted on Chevy's website for all to see as part of this contest.
Even if you put bad words in it?
Even if I submit the butt sex one that we watched just a little while ago.
Lol. Oh my god.
Yeah, these range from poignant to scary to hilarious. I don't think there's a single entry that I've seen that wasn't making fun of Chevy.
Wow.
And in fact, the article I linked to on Ars Technica that talks about this has a picture of the Canyonero.
Canyonero.
2 lanes long and 4 lanes wide.
Canyonero. Yeah.
There was one ad, it's like, this V8 engine gets 15 miles to the gallon.
Wow, my car gets 30.
My car gets 30.
And I have a hatch. If I got rid of the hatch, I'd get more.
You got a hatch. I got 3 speeds in my transmission.
I got 5. I guess that's why I'm still doing 30, even though I got a hatch.
And your car's faster than mine.
Yeah, that too.
So today, due to popular request for various topics, we decided to pick one of the topics that was suggested, and we're going to talk about computer monitors. Now, we're not going to talk about the more, esoteric ideas, like using plasma screens or projectors.
Yeah, not televisions. There's a lot of television to discuss that we're going to avoid. Only monitors we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so we won't get into any of that HDMI bullshit. That'll be another show.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about display technologies for, like, iPods and DSs and PSPs or any of that either. Just
basically,
monitors for your computer.
Which basically boils down to CRTs, cathode ray tubes, or LCDs, liquid crystal displays. Now, it just so happens that Scott knows quite a bit about the latter, and I know quite a bit about the former. And between the two of us, we're definitely not experts, but we have quite a depth of knowledge here.
More than most people.
So I guess we'll begin with just a description of how these two technologies work and what they are. We're not going to go into the deep details because I doubt you care. So anyway, CRT, a cathode ray tube. Now, those are the monitors that look like TVs. They're big and boxy and heavy.
It's because they're essentially TVs. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, basically, a cathode ray tube on a very fundamental level is, inside of it, it's a big funnel-shaped vacuum made of lead glass. And the vacuum's really powerful. In fact, it's dangerous. If you were somehow able to crack the glass, it could kill you.
Good thing the glass is really, really, really thick.
Yes. Now, this isn't true in old TVs and old monitors. If you ever find this is just a warning before I start, a really old cathode ray tube, like an old-ass TV that still works.
Stay away.
Yeah, be very wary of it. But anyway, the technology, while complex, is very simple to understand. In the back of this funnel, there's an electron gun, a cathode. And basically, it shoots an electron beam at the screen. And on the screen are phosphors that, when hit by electrons, glow whatever color you want them to glow. Some glow blue, red, or green. Some can glow orange, white, but whatever. They use red, green, blue in modern color monitors. Monochrome's different. We don't really need to get into that. And basically, magnets on the and or electromagnetic fields on the sides of this funnel aim this beam, and the beam basically goes from top to bottom, left to right, painting your pixels on the screen one by one, over and over and over and over and over again.
Really, really fast.
Yes.
Wicked fast.
Old as CRTs actually mechanically scanned, but all modern ones use various magnetic bits to make it move, so there aren't really moving parts in there per se.
That's good, because if there were moving parts, they would not only suck, but be horribly slow at refreshing and such.
Yep. Now, to talk about just modern CRTs, there are 2 basic types, and the difference used to mean a lot more than it does now. So you may hear fanboys talking about, oh, aperture grill is the way to go, blah, 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 but they're basically blowing smoke up your ass at this point. Now, there is a shadow mask and an aperture grill. And basically all this has to do with is that you have this electron beam scanning the screen and hitting phosphors. Now, how do you control precisely which phosphors it hits? Especially when for every pixel, there are 3 different phosphors, one of each color, red, green, blue. And the answer to that is either a shadow mask or an aperture grill. Now, for a long time, aperture grills were a lot better. Because basically all they are... Now, these are the monitors that have the lines going across the sides.
Yeah, if you look closely at your monitor, you probably don't have an aperture grill unless you're like a CAD professional with some CAD monitor or something. But the glass will actually be flat and not, sort of bendy. But there are also shadow masks with flat glass. But aperture grills with flat glass, if you look really closely, not even that closely, you could see lines going across the screen.
Yep, really, really faint. They're much fainter now than they used to be. Some people find them really annoying. Some people don't even see them. But those basically stabilize it. What it is that instead what you have is a series of vertical wires, really, really tiny wires, tight together under high, high tension. And they go across your whole screen. And those 2 or possibly 3 horizontal wires hold them all in place in the proper distance apart. And those lines basically separate the different sets of 3 pixels or 3 phosphors. And because they're just vertical lines and there's nothing horizontally, the net result is that more light comes out total from the monitor. So aperture grills tended to be brighter and have higher contrast. Now, shadow masks have caught up recently to the point that this is almost not even a consideration anymore. Shadow mask, which is used in most televisions and most monitors, is the same kind of idea, only instead you have a big piece of some kind of metal or plastic. Usually it's metal. Maybe it's coated in tin. It doesn't really matter. And it has a whole bunch of holes in it, usually in little triangles. And the electrons are basically aimed so that they go through the holes, and then they hit the phosphors. See, that's not so difficult to understand. And when it comes down to it, the 2 technologies, it doesn't matter which one you use. The monitors that are made in the modern day are pretty much identical. It's just a matter of taste.
Yep. If I were you and I was planning on buying a cathode ray tube monitor, I would buy one that is the most glass you can get for the least money you can get. Preferably the glass would be flat and not a curved glass, just because the flat glass is a lot nicer and easier to look at. And considering your computer, most things are square, it's nice. And preferably takes up the least physical room, because you can get some monitors that aren't a mile from the front to the back. They're longer than an LCD, but there's not much you can do about that.
Now, spec-wise, one of the big advantages of CRTs is that they're highly versatile. There's no real native resolution to a CRT. There's just a maximum resolution. And the quality will pretty much be the same no matter what resolution you set it at. And you can set it to just about anything. This was really an advantage in the early days of LCDs, because when early LCDs came out, an LCD, as Scott will talk about, basically has one native resolution, which is great now because the resolution is good. But way back in the day, it was usually kind of shitty. And games used all sorts of different resolutions, and it caused trouble.
Yeah, nowadays, anything that runs full screen, lets you choose your resolution. So it's usually all good.
Yeah, and if you're running one of those old DOS games on an LCD, well, I don't think you're going to worry about the slight pixelation.
No, I wouldn't worry about it either.
But CRTs, the main benefits of them, that one, they're cheap. They're generally very cheap for what you get. Though your mileage may vary, because if you have it shipped to you from Newegg, the shipping will be quite a bit.
Yeah, if you're going to buy our CRT these days, you can find a used one at a used computer shop for nothing. Or you can buy one on eBay for nothing.
Yep.
Or you can buy one from CompUSA for almost nothing.
Now, also, another advantage is that they're very durable. As in, the screen is glass. Like, glass. You couldn't break it if you tried in the front of that screen.
Yeah, people don't seem to realize, because when you look at a TV or a CRT monitor, the picture looks like it's right behind the glass. If you actually get close and try to see, that glass is inches thick. Inches.
Yeah, if you want to see a demonstration of that, take close one eye and take a finger and put it over something on your monitor so that your finger covers it. Then move your head to the left or right, and you'll see the thing around your finger, because the image is actually a little ways back there. And the glass itself is very thick, and it's impregnated with lead. Now, the lead isn't there just to make the glass stronger. It's there to protect you.
It's there to poison you, too.
Well, it'll only poison you if you grind it up and
I
eat
know, I
it.
was just joking. I got to throw a joke in here somewhere.
But basically, the cathode ray tube back there is also making X-rays that are pointed right at your face.
Awesome.
Now, this is a very regulated technology, so the glass is there to keep the X-rays from actually hitting you.
And it works.
Yeah, though we had a friend, Greg, there was a tiny hole in the shield on the front of his CRT, and you could see that it not was all right, and I don't think he should have been sitting in front of that thing.
Yeah, he got a new one, though, eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you ever see that old Simpsons where Homer is sitting in front of the TV and then you see the wall has like this black shadow around, his body? There's like a silhouette of Homer on the wall. That was how old TVs were like then, not so good.
Yep. Now, old CRTs, like ones made in the 80s, early 90s, tend to wear out for a number of reasons. The main reason being that there's something called outgassing that happens inside the tube where basically ions and basically things that are heavy and aren't electrons are in the air, in the vacuum in there where they shouldn't be. And they get accelerated by the gun, and they hit the phosphor screen, slowly damaging it and wearing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Modern CRTs, that has been almost entirely mitigated by a whole bunch of cool technologies I don't have time to talk about here.
Also, CRTs can get damaged by extra cleaning. Like, if you don't clean them nicely, then you'll put a bunch of little tiny scratches in the glass, which you don't notice. If you clean it once, you clean it twice. If you clean it 100 times over 5 years, eventually 1 million little tiny scratches in the monitor, all of which are individually invisible, will make your picture all blurry and blah.
However, they're still more durable screen-wise than most LCDs.
Indeed.
It's real easy to scratch an LCD screen.
Too easy.
Yeah. I mean, CRTs, you can just dunk it with your finger, poke at it. You can write on it with... I knew some people, I hated this, who would write on their monitor with dry erase markers. It was painful to me, but it doesn't hurt them.
Yeah, you'll get oil and stuff on there and have to clean it, but as long as you don't clean it with, sandpaper, you'll be all right.
Now, in terms of specs, if you're actually looking to buy one, I'd recommend look at price the most, but the specs you really want to worry about are horizontal sync, which basically isn't much of an issue, and if you don't really know what the number means, don't worry about it.
But you're going to need to know that number if you run Linux, probably.
Yeah,
or at least it's good to know if you run Linux.
Yeah, though that number will be in the instruction book.
Yeah, it will be.
Where vertical sync is much more important. That's the refresh rate that most people talk about. And you want to look for a CRT that'll at least do 75 or more cycles per second.
At the resolution.
Yeah, at the resolution you think you're going to be running it at.
So if you're going to run it 1600 by 1200, sure, my monitor can do that at 60 hertz. That's not so good. You're going to want something that can do, whatever. Pick your resolution first, then make sure the monitor says that resolution at least 75, if not 80 or more.
Yeah, you want to be at least at 75. Below that, the monitors can trigger migraines in certain people or epileptic seizures.
Yeah, have you ever noticed if someone points a video camera at a monitor, a CRT monitor, you can see that flickering going on? Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and especially if you're in an office or a place with fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights go at 60 hertz. A lot of old monitors go at 60 hertz. That's not a great thing.
It hurts, trust me. I've done it. I've sat in front of CRTs for a long time, and it's not pleasant.
And the other main thing to look at, this is the key one, because a lot of people try to trick you on this, is the dot pitch. Now, if your monitor doesn't have a dot pitch, that means it's an armature grill, and instead it has a line pitch or a stripe pitch. Now, basically, in general, you want it to be 0.23 or less. Smaller is better. Basically, it's the size of the pixels, or the distance between the pixels. The problem here is that everyone lies and measures it different ways so they can seem better than everyone else. And a nice rule of thumb is that if they say just dot pitch, they're probably shady and lying to you. If they say diagonal dot pitch, they're probably not lying to you, because diagonal tends to be the longest distance between any two pixels.
That is indeed true.
And of course, the last bit is how big you want it. And basically just think about how big you want your screen to be. Will it fit on your desk? Look at it in person, because a lot of people measure the size of monitors different ways to trick you.
Yeah, typically a monitor is measured diagonally across and such.
Yeah, but it used to be measured across horizontally, and some are widescreen and all sorts of things.
Some people include the plastic in the measurement. You don't know.
Yeah, CRTs are effectively going to be obsolete completely within the next decade.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I'd say the only reason to get a CRT at this point is for cheapness, or if you, for whatever reason, know that you're going to be running in a bunch of different resolutions all the time.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the LCD, that's probably what you've got if, you got a laptop or you have a nice flat screen.
Yeah, I'd love to see a CRT laptop.
Yeah, right, that'd be great. Well, didn't they used to have those, what was it called?
Actually, at IBM, we have some really cool 386 laptops. They're more like portable PCs. They actually have gas plasma screens built into them.
Wow.
Yeah, they're monochrome orange, but they're actually gas plasma.
Holy crap.
So, the myth of, gas plasma TVs wear out and they let the gas out, that's complete bullshit.
They do wear out, though. They only have X hours before they're not so good anymore.
Yeah, however...
But it's for other reasons.
Yeah, and the number of hours is quite large.
Yeah, it is quite large, like hundreds of thousands of hours or tens of thousands of hours or something like that. Anyway, liquid crystal display. Whether you know it or not, it's not joking when it calls itself a liquid crystal display. There is liquid crystal in there. Like, holy crap, liquid crystals. Whoa, it's crazy.
Wow, I mean, there's a cathode ray tube inside my CRT.
Yeah, I know. It shoots cathode rays.
Yeah, science words mean things.
Yeah, so the way a liquid crystal display works is kind of stupidly easy. You have liquid crystals inside a little flat thing that's really complex electronically, but you don't care about that. And when electricity is passed through it, the crystals spin around and align themselves, and you can see them. That's pretty much it. Now, your CRT that's the basic LCD that you're going to see in like a calculator. A little, 4-function calculator has the little numbers at the top. That's an LCD. Tiger LCD games, they're called Tiger LCD games for a reason. Now, the one in your monitor is a little bit more complex. The way this is, it's sort of like layers. The first layer is a piece of plastic that's pretty much transparent. And that's like the screen that protects, all the inner bits that you're worrying about. I've taken apart an LCD before, so I know this stuff.
Yeah, there's pictures on your Flickr, too.
Yeah, there are pictures on my Flickr of us taking apart the broken old LCD. Now, this is the part that you're not going to want to scratch, but you are going to want to clean, so you're going to have to spray it with, it's not glass, it's not durable like the CRT, so you're going to want to use, a microfiber cloth and, a little wet nap thing.
Yeah, don't use Windex and paper towels.
Yeah, use, half rubbing alcohol, half water, and a microfiber cloth, and you'll be all set.
If your LCD comes with instructions, do whatever those say.
And Radio Shack, it's sort of a ripoff, but they're not too expensive. Sells little cleaning kits for LCDs. They're not so bad, especially if you buy them in bulk. Anyway, the next layer is this lens. Well, it's not really it is a lens, but it's an equally thin, flat sheet of plastic, but it's ribbed horizontally. Like those little, what are they called? Those lenses that you buy?
Fresnel
lenses. Think of it just like that. It's a piece of plastic with little ridges in it, but they're all just horizontal lines. The next one is clear, and you don't worry about that one because I'm not even going to bother explaining it.
Yeah, I noticed we both skipped over a lot in our descriptions. It's really hard to not talk an hour about each one of these.
Yeah, I'm just avoiding the technological bits that aren't necessary.
Yeah.
The next one is sort of like a Fresnel lens. It makes it easier to see. It arranges everything nicely. Don't worry about that either.
Yeah, I was thinking that I thought I sounded kind of dumb because I kept skip that on the CRTs, but you're doing the same thing, so I feel good now.
Yep, now here come the important layers. There's the actual liquid crystal layer.
Oh!
And then there's another layer with vertical lines, sort of like the one that was horizontal before. Now, the way it works is and behind that, of course, is a big piece of clear plastic. Just a big, thick piece of plastic, like a half an inch thick.
Yeah, like awesome plexiglass or lucite looking.
Like you could bang someone over the head with this thing. It's perfectly clear, and it's fiber optic too. So what happens is, if you shine light in the top of it or in the side, it comes out the front. Fiber optics, light goes in one end, comes out the other end. So there's two little thin, usually two. Thin lights. They look like fluorescent lights that you have in, the ceiling of an office, but they're not. And these turn on, and they're wicked bright. And they shine straight down into this piece of plastic, and the light comes out the front.
Yep, they also put out a special light. It's purely white usually, or some perfect color curve.
Whatever you do, don't take apart an LCD and turn these lights on and look at them.
Yeah, well, while we're at it, don't ever try to turn on an electron gun if it's not shielded.
Yeah, feel free to take apart a monitor. Just don't take apart a CRT all the way, and don't take apart one and then try to turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, those things are fucking bright.
Yeah, so those lights go down into the plastic and out the front. It goes through the vertical thing, the liquid crystals, the horizontal thing, and then the front. Now, normally, if the LCD is off, what happens is the light goes through the horizontal and then through the vertical. Well, the horizontal and the vertical lenses, the reason that they're that way is because light doesn't get through. If light goes through horizontal and then vertical, it just doesn't make it out to your eyes.
Polarization.
Hallelujah.
Now, if you want to see a
Science.
nice example of this, if you've got polarized sunglasses, which you should, because if your sunglasses aren't polarized, they're not really that effective. But, Ed, I digress. Take them and put them on and stand in front of your LCD, and then start turning your head to a 45-degree angle, and the image will probably disappear.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Actually, it pisses me off because my cell phone is polarized. So in the summer, I'll pull it out and try to look at it, and then I have to rotate it 90 degrees so I can actually see it.
mm-hmm. Now, in between, there's the LCDs. This is where it's this big electronic flat thing, and it's got a grid of wires all along the side and a million transistors in it, and it's all crazy. But let it just be said that via electronics and your computer, it can control the color of any pixel in that entire LCD screen bit. So, the way the computer has it is the computer has a bunch of memory. Let's say your resolution is 10 by 10. I'm just making this up. That means you got 100 pixels, right? And you got a color for each pixel. So you got a number, and then a number for the color, because the color is something like OF 3456. Just like the colors you type into Photoshop or whatever, or MS Paint. And it stores pixel color in the frame buffer on your video card.
Now, this applies to CRTs, too.
Yeah, it does, but LCD's a little more direct.
Yes.
In that the pixel color, it sends that whole frame buffer worth of stuff to the LCD basically a bajillion times a second, whatever your frame rate is, And all the liquid crystals in this middle part change according to what color they're supposed to be. And what happens is the light going through the vertical part hits the liquid crystal and then is skewed based on the arrangement of the crystal in that pixel. And that allows it to, A, be the right color, and B, make it through the horizontal part to your eyeball, where you see it.
Now, think about this difference here. Think about the way he just described that. And then a CRT, you've got a different phosphor for each of the three colors. And then basically you have three phosphors together make one pixel. Now you can see why the LCD has much more potential for clear, crisp images.
Yeah, an LCD screen is essentially just a flat sheet of pixels that will always be the correct color with light shining through them to your eyes.
Yep, and it's a 1-to-1 correlation. That's why, like I mentioned, and Scott will probably talk about more, the resolution is pretty much set. An LCD has a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And you send pixels to it 1 for 1.
Now, there's more technology to it. I mean, LCDs used to be passive matrix, and now they're active matrix, and passive matrix are the ones in the calculator, basically. And now they're TFT, which is thin film transistor. That just has to do with the ways they control the pixels and such, and how now they don't have to control them row and column, which caused bleeding colors and stuff. Now they can actually control each individual pixel all the time. So, as a result, an LCD has a set resolution. Like my LCDs, I have two of them. They're Samsung 172Xs.
They're very nice.
They are. They're 1280 by 1024. That's how many pixels there are. There are exactly that many pixels. No more, no less. If I try to run a program at, 1600 by 1200, well, then it's either going to, A, the software in my computer will have to sort of change that, into a 1280 by 1024 image, or the monitor will have to downsample it or something.
You don't want either one of those.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No.
Also, if you run something in low resolution and your monitor isn't ass, it'll usually upsample it, which works just fine usually. But, you're not getting the most out of your monitor when you do that.
Yeah. So once again, if you're going to be changing resolutions a lot for whatever reasons, maybe if you're developing software or something that needs that sort of thing, and you're a graphic designer, then get a CRT. But
yeah, it works well for like if you're emulating an old Nintendo game at 800 by 600, and it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's
but,
not something to worry about.
Yeah, but if you have an LCD, you got to know the resolution of it, and you're going to want to set your desktop to be that resolution exactly. Now, the next thing you want to know about a LCD monitor is the pixel pitch. The pixel pitch is an exact measurement of the size of the pixels.
This is kind of like what the dot pitch tells you on a CRT.
It's pretty much the same thing, only it's really hard to fake this because you can just look with your eyeball and see the pixel and take a little tiny... If you have like a vernier, you can pretty much see exactly how wide the pixel is with your eyeball. Then there's the contrast ratio.
All right, now this applies to CRTs too, and it's largely bullshit.
Contrast ratios on monitors and TVs, you'll see numbers like 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1, 2,000 to 1, 10,000 to 1, some crazy numbers.
Yeah, I looked it up. My monitor claims to be 2,500 to 1.
Mm-hmm. A contrast ratio is the difference between the whitest white and the blackest black that the display can do.
Just the two extremes.
Yeah.
There's another thing called gamma, which is the curve of the differences between all the different shades all the way from the blackest black to the whitest white.
Now, a better contrast ratio is better, like bigger ones are better, because, well, it just means it's easier to see. That's all there is to it. But you really can't trust the numbers so much because they're lying, as in they're never going to be 100% accurate because everyone measures them differently.
But you know the old saying, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yep. So... if one monitor says 500 to 1 and one says 700 to 1, there's not a big difference there, because who could be embellishing? But odds are one that says 1,000 to 1 is going to be a little better than one that says 500 to 1.
Though if you see a monitor that costs, $100 and it says 1,000,000 to 1, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some monitors will advertise a statistic called luminosity. That's basically telling you how bright the thing can get, which has to do with the power of those little light bulbs I talked about.
Yeah. Now, bear in mind that if a monitor is cheap and it says it has a really high luminosity, odds are it has some washed out color in there.
Yeah. You also got to watch out, like in one of my monitors, I think it's from beating it up and carrying it around, one of the little light bulbs is dyed or dimmed, and now one monitor is slightly darker than the others, but it's still pretty damn bright. So just watch out for that. Now, one thing to watch out with LCDs that isn't a worry on CRTs is the viewing angle. Usually the viewing angle will be 4 numbers that are degrees. 90 degrees being, well, perfect, but that's not really going to happen.
Yeah, as opposed to CRTs, which have an infinite viewing angle. If you can see the screen, you can see the image.
Right. With an LCD, if you look at it dead on, like you're facing right at the screen, the light from the screen is coming directly at your face, you can see the image perfectly. Now, say... you have a friend on the other side of the room, and the LCD is facing him, and you're sitting to his left, and you look at the screen. Well, now, the front of the screen is making like a 40-degree angle, between you and the screen. Maybe you won't be able to see it if the monitor sucks. So, if you're looking for privacy, you can buy LCDs with shitty viewing angles, but at the same time, they don't make those anymore because they suck.
Now, what they also make, and these aren't really within the grasp of the typical consumer, but you can buy them if you really want. You can get special polarized LCDs where you then wear a set of glasses and only you can see what's on the screen. Mm-hmm. Or anyone else who buys these glasses.
Yeah. But basically, you want a big viewing angle so that you can see your screen if you're not looking directly at it or if you're at a different position in the room without having to turn your monitor all over the place.
But don't get a monitor with a big viewing angle to the expense of the more important things like it looking good in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's only 3 more things you need to know about an LCD. The most important of which is something people don't seem to understand is the pixel response. Remember how before we were talking about vertical refresh in hertz, which is the number of times per second that the screen updates?
Yep. So
a 75 hertz CRT monitor means that the picture is completely refreshed 75 times every second, which means if you're running an first-person shooter video game at 75 FPS, every single frame that your video card renders shows up on the screen.
Now, I'll toss in right now, this isn't really important, but I didn't mention it before, but now we're talking about resolution. If you see the word interlaced on a CRT, ignore that. Don't buy it. Don't use that resolution. Interlaced basically means it'll fill half of the lines at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
It allows a cheap monitor to do a higher resolution than it normally could.
Yeah,
and it makes it look like ass.
Yeah, the alternative to interlaced is progressive scan, but that's mostly a television technology. You're not going to see that too often on monitors. Most monitors nowadays don't worry about interlaced because you're not going to see it.
Yeah, unless you're looking at, like, if you're picking up an old one on eBay.
Oh, old ones on eBay, you might see that, yeah. But other than that, interlaced and progressive scan are TV things. We'll talk about TVs at some other time.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. So, on an LCD, they don't measure it in hertz. They measure it in milliseconds. So 12 milliseconds is the amount of time it takes for my LCD to change all the crystals and show a new frame of, picture on the screen. 12 milliseconds comes out to about 75 hertz. That's just how it works. You're going to want 12 milliseconds or less. That's absolutely like a must these days.
We're not kidding. Otherwise, you'll get something called ghosting.
Yeah, you're probably going to want 8, if not, fewer is a little insane, but 12 or less. Ghosting is this thing that used to happen with LCD monitors with greater than 12 millisecond refresh times. What happens is, let's say you're playing a game, and a frame of the game comes in, and it's rendered on the LCD screen. Then you move. Let's say I look to the left in Quake, or I fire a rocket. Then it takes more than 12 milliseconds for the screen to refresh. So the little crystals are like moving around, but they're not moving fast enough. So what happens is if I move too fast, eventually I'll still see where I just was while I'm seeing where I am now.
It's like the mouse trails you can set in Windows, only it's not on purpose.
Yeah, it's bad. It makes it look like there's a ghost.
It's one advantage of CRTs if you're looking to buy on the cheap is that that'll never, ever, ever happen on a CRT.
Never. But most LCDs now, even like the cheap ones you can get a Newegg, have decent pixel response time, so you're okay.
Yeah, as long as you're not using like the LCD that came with the crapo computer you bought from Gateway.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing we forgot to talk about is the connectors to monitors.
There are basically, for computers, 2.
There are 2. Don't worry about any of the other things. There's VGA and DVI.
Now,
everything else is either old hat or TV.
Yeah, the other thing is there's a component thing that uses BNC, and if you try to pick up an old Aperture Grill CRT anywhere on eBay, you might need a special connector for it. And so basically, if you pick up an old CAD monitor and it doesn't say it comes with a cable, don't buy it because you're not going to find that cable easily.
Right now, VGA is probably the monitor cable you're all used to. It looks like a little, what's the name of that?
It looks like a serial port. Only
like
with
a trapezoid.
Yeah, it's like a serial cable, only has an extra row of pins.
Exactly. It's got the 2 screws on the side and whatever. On that wire comes an analog signal, like analog, not ones and zeros, but a wave.
Now, that's perfectly fine for a CRT because a CRT, while it puts a digital image on, it does it in an analog way, and you don't really gain much from sending a digital signal to the CRT.
Yeah, a CRT just takes analog to analog. It's an analog display, and it has analog signal coming in.
I've seen very few CRTs for computers that had DVI input.
I've never seen a CRT with DVI. I still don't even know if they exist. There might be one with a converter in it somewhere.
Yeah, but even then, it's really, you're not going to get any advantage from it.
Yeah. DVI is a digital signal. This is actually sending directly to your LCD monitor, the layout of the pixels. You're basically copying the frame buffer over the DVI in some things I'm not going to explain, right to the monitor.
Now, that has a number of advantages.
Insane advantages, such as you don't need an analog to digital conversion.
Yep.
The screen is displaying exactly what your video card rendered with absolutely no interference and no possible mess-ups and no extra conversions, and it's fast.
I mean, it also means,
perfect.
If you want it also means less heat from your video card because your video card doesn't need a RAM DAC at the end anymore.
It's just great all around. Not only that, but your LCD is going to display exactly the right resolution all the time.
And you no longer have the problem of interference, not interference in your display, but your display causing interference for other things. Because VGA cables, which have been the standard for computer video for the past over a decade, they are incredibly noisy. And in fact, there are laws as to how long a VGA cable can be. There are also standards because if they get too long, the signal doesn't really get there so well. But if you make a long enough VGA cable, you can broadcast VGA into the air.
Yeah.
It's bad.
So if you can, you want to use DVI. And this is the cable. It's sort of squarish, and at one end there'll be like a plus, and then there'll be like this grid with 3 rows of pins.
Now, it might look a little different because basically DVI, one version of it is compatible with VGA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've got some of those at work. It's a different DVI cable that doesn't quite fit in other DVI.
Oh, well, I've never seen that. I don't think anyone's going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, well, I've run into it a lot where I work, but I think it's just because of the Lenovo computers we get.
No. And if you think this doesn't make a difference, I have a computer with a video card that has a DVI and a VGA. And I have 2 of the exact same LCD monitors, one of them connected by DVI and one connected by VGA. And it makes a big freaking difference. Like, I could switch them around, and if one of them didn't have a broken brightness, you could tell right away which one was which.
Yep.
So use DVI with an LCD whenever possible.
But at the same token, if you don't have DVI, don't worry about running out and buying a video card to upgrade. Just wait till you get your next computer.
Yeah, plus if you don't have a DVI cable because one didn't come with your monitor or your video card, they're expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive ripoffs just like USB cables are.
Yeah, I've got one, but you can't have it. So,
though if you need to find one, troll around on the internet for a deal.
Or you can buy a monitor on Newegg that comes with one. Then you'll get one.
And you'll have a monitor, but then you'll have N-1 cables for N monitors.
But you can hook the other one up with VGA. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're going to want to use DVI whenever possible. The last thing, of course, is the size of your LCD. Now, when measuring LCD sizes, you can't compare them directly with CRT sizes. A 17-inch LCD is generally equivalent to a 19-inch CRT.
Now, generally, because once again, manufacturers like to play all sorts of bullshit games with these numbers.
Of course, and you'll always get the ones that are like, this is a 19-inch LCD, 18-inch viewable, or, this is a 19-inch CRT, 17 and a half inches viewable, or all kinds of crazy stuff. So, your best bet is if you're shopping, take a little tape measure and measure from the bottom left corner to the top right corner of the viewable area. And you'll get it exactly right every time.
Or if you know what you're going to buy or just looking, go to Best Buy and Circuit City and all that. Look at all of them. When you find the one that's the right size that you want, then go order it on eBay for cheaper. But at least you got to see it in person before you ordered it.
And of course, the resolutions of LCDs are kind of related to their inches. 17-inch LCDs typically are 1280 by 1024. 19-inch ones are usually like 1600 by 1200. They can go up to, depends. The 21 inches are almost always 1600 by 1200.
Yep. Now, it's not really a concern with LCDs because once again, when you buy it, it'll tell you in the instruction book, this is the resolution it runs at, and you run it at that resolution.
Yeah, some of them even like 2400. It gets pretty insane.
Now, if you have a CRT, it's much trickier because in that case, you can pick any resolution, and most CRTs can run at like 15 or 20 different resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
So a general rule is that pretty much the resolutions of LCDs and CRTs per size tend to match up. If you're running a 17-inch monitor, which is the standard, most people run in 1024 or one step up or one step down from that.
Mm-hmm.
If you go any lower, it'll be huge, you can't read anything. Go any bigger, you won't be able to read any text. Yeah, I currently run at 1152, which is an oddball out, and don't ask me why. I have a lot of stupid reasons. Mostly because my CRT is old as shit.
Yeah, I had a 17-inch CRT. I ran at 1024. Now I run at 1280, which is what I want to run at because I like 1280.
Yep. I mean, plus CRTs, you're limited by the dot pitch, the thing I mentioned way back, because the smaller the dot pitch, the higher resolution you can go within the spectrum of what resolutions the monitor can display and still read text. Because while a CRT will run at a resolution, it is analog and it's kind of fuzzy in terms of aiming that electron stream. So pixels tend to grow and be larger than the point at which the light's actually coming out, and they tend to overlap.
Whereas in a LCD, where every pixel is perfectly square and is exactly the same size as every other pixel.
That's the main benefit of an LCD, is that you don't have to fiddle with it. You plug it in, you turn it on, and it looks the way it's going to look.
And even if you plug in the analog signal to an LCD, there's usually an auto button which will automatically size it up to fit your screen at the right resolution and everything.
Yeah, CRTs, you have to fiddle with them a whole bunch, and I don't have time to talk about that now, but if anyone has a CRT and wants to know how to fiddle, Ask in the forums, and I can give you all sorts of information that I don't feel like saying out loud right now.
There's one last thing I want to say, because you're talking about readability of text. The disadvantage of LCDs is that when you want to read text on them, since everything is just perfect pixels, you usually end up getting these jaggy black letters because they're all made of little tiny squares, but they're not too tiny, so they're still jaggy little squares on a white background, and the text looks real crappy.
Yep, CRTs, because they're a little shittier and the pixels are more blurry, that's not an issue. It's like CRTs have built-in anti-aliasing.
Something like that. So what you're going to have to do if you have an LCD is somewhere in your operating system, depending Linux, Windows, Mac, I think does it all on its own. Don't worry about it.
Of course, Mac.
Yeah,
Mac,
right?
Yeah, if you have a Mac, you don't need to even worry about what we're talking about.
There's something called subpixel rendering, or there's a thing in Windows you can go activate. I forget what the hell it's called.
Isn't it the one that just says, like, make my fonts look something?
Yeah, it says, like, make my fonts look nicer. I don't know. There's some easy button somewhere. I actually think there's a website you can visit in Internet Explorer, and it says which of these fonts looks the best.
Yeah, I went to that.
And you click one, and it sets your thing right. Where what happens is your computer will render your fonts with subpixel rendering, which basically means it'll know when it's drawing fonts, and it'll say, oh, this is where it will look jaggy, so I'll change the color of the pixel on the corner to make it right, so it looks normal and is very nice and readable.
Yeah, it's basically anti-aliasing.
Yeah, so it's not anti-aliasing.
But it has a similar effect.
Kind of.
As in, it softens the edges of jaggies by putting other bits there.
Yeah, that's part of what anti-aliasing does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have an LCD monitor and you plan on reading text, which I hope you do, enable subpixel rendering, whatever it's called, in your operating system.
Yep. And I guess one last thing about a CRT. I said that you want the dot pitch to be as low as possible. There's actually a drawback to that. If you get the dot pitch too low, if your monitor is that high quality, you'll actually get this artifact where basically patterns will appear on the screen because the pixels are so small they actually become discrete. And the pixels as a whole, your brain will say, hey, there's a pattern there. And you'll see like this swooshing pattern on your monitor. And you'll have to go into your monitor settings and turn on the moire cancellation thing, which will basically blur your pixels.
I've never had to turn that on, ever.
I've never had a monitor that had such a low dot pitch in my life.
But every monitor had the option.
Yep, well, part of it is that it's not. There's no line at which it occurs. It depends on who you are and what your brain and your eyes do. So if you get a monitor that has really, really low dot pitch and you see swooshing artifacts, that's probably what it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're worried about colors being precise, as in, because someone asked about this, the color of the monitor matching colors in the real world, matching colors if you go to the printer and print it out, you're really not going to get that unless you spend a lot of money on an ultra-professional video card, an ultra-professional monitor, an ultra-professional printer that are all in a matching set.
Yes. I mean, it's easier with LCDs because gamma, I mentioned it earlier, the gamma curve, it's basically the intervals and the steps of brightness and color that a pixel will go through on just as you're looking at it. And it's basically a curve. So for every unit pixel brightness I want, it'll have a corresponding change in luminosity. LCDs have a linear curve, as far as I can tell. Or linear, as all you non-Michiganders.
Linear.
Whatever. Pop. It's pop. I drink pop.
Soda.
I drink pop.
Linear. we should make a new brand of soda. Linear soda.
But anyway, there's no curve there. So even if the colors aren't accurate in an absolute sense, they're always generally accurate relative to each other. On a CRT, there's actually a gamma curve. It's a function of how CRTs work. And if you want the colors to be accurate in terms of professional design, you either need to run some sort of gamma correction, which will be a function of your video card, read the documentation, or you have to get a professional monitor that does that on its own. If the monitor says it's CAD ready, it'll do it. If it doesn't say anything like that, you're on your own.
So basically what you need to do if you want perfect color is calibrate it somewhat manually. You have to get some sort of like color reference, maybe. So I don't know, what do they call them? The
test patterns?
Yeah. Get one of those up there. Get a piece of paper with those little palettes on them. Match up the colors right. Then print something out and look at those. And, you know, it's not too much to modify with an LCD. I mean, you got brightness and contrast usually. Maybe a few other settings. It's mostly going to be video card settings that you're going to have to worry about there, because you can really mess with colors in the video card area.
Now, read your documentation. Most video cards have a little utility where they'll put an image on the screen, and they'll say, adjust this parameter until this thing is no longer visible.
I know the NVIDIA driver has that. There's a little color modification screen where there's like there's 3 sliders for red, green, and blue.
Yep.
And it displays this really lots of colors picture in a little box, and you can slide them until that picture looks just right.
Yep, but some of them have actual expert systems where they ask you to do a whole bunch of tasks in a row. Like they'll say, move this slider until this box and this box are the same color. Then move this slider until you can tell the difference between this box and this box.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're done, your monitor will be as calibrated as it's going to be.
Yep.
Now, things like Photoshop and other photo video editing solution things often will have gamma correction or color correction things built into them, and a lot of these programs can interact with each other, and there are all these sorts of standards for that, but that's all software and well beyond the scope of the hardware we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm. As long as your monitor isn't ass, you'll be able to get colors that are good enough for any person, and if you need them to be better because you're some crazy, wicked, printing lots and lots of stuff, in a giant printing facility professional, you've got enough money to buy something fancy. All right, so if you're going to get a monitor, or you already got one, now you know how it works and all that.
Yeah, we skipped over a lot of the technical details for a lot of reasons. I mean, look how long we've gone already.
Yeah, and also they're kind of boring.
Yeah, if you really want to know, just look on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia, actually, we were poking around for sources. They have great articles on CRTs and LCDs.
Yeah, you also want to look up DLPs for projectors, TFTs, maybe OLEDs, LCOS. Those are just some more acronyms to look up for related informations.
Yep, and
Active
of course,
matrix, passive matrix.
We're going to do another show at some point in the future, not next week, but some other week coming up, on television technology.
Which are
ideas.
some of the ones I just talked about.
I mean, it's kind of the same. There are LCD televisions, there are CRT televisions, but there's also, front projection, rear projection.
Gas plasma, liquid crystal on silicon, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yep, hiring a guy to stand and act shows out for you.
That's the best one.
Oh, yeah. And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geeknights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.